and welcome to another Gardens of Wiltshire video. I'm your host Dewi, and this is another episode in Send Forth All Legions. This week, Theodred's Guard. The son of the king of Rohan, Theodred is the sole heir to Theoden's kingdom, and with his father's mind seemingly elsewhere, the commander of the forces of the Rohirrim. Hearing of Saruman's armies amassing near the Fords of Isen, Theodred gathered as many captains and riders as he could, and rode to investigate. Each of the riders that joined their heir of Rohan is unquestionably loyal to him, and will fight to ensure Theodred's protection at all costs, with the Rohirrim seeing their king falling into what seemed like an illness, ensuring the continuation of his lineage is their sole priority. Even as the young prince charges recklessly into the fight, his riders follow him unwaveringly, for it is their sworn duty to ensure his survival. Upon his arrival at the Fords of Isen, Theodred wastes little time in charging headlong into battle, his loyal captains at his side. Grimbold of Grimslade has rallied as many Helmingers as he can to his prince's army, whilst Elfhelm commands Rohan's scouting forces that return to Theodred's side when the battle begins to go ill. The combined might of Theodred's guard is a force to be feared. The son of the king is valiant and a skilled warrior, and the loyalty he commands from his followers mean that they will fight with unparalleled courage to ensure their prince's safety, so long as the young prince of Rohan remains fighting against the forces of the White Wizard. Those that fight at his side will continue to do so. So, coming back into the army composition. So obviously, first up is Theodred, heir of Rohan, and he can take a horse, shield, or throwing spears. Next we have Elfhelm, captain of Rohan. He can also take a horse. Then we have Grimbold of Grimslade, captain of Rohan, who can take a horse, bow, heavy armour, shield, throwing spears. And moving on to the warriors. We have a warrior of Rohan who can take a warhorn, a banner, throwing spears, a bow and a shield. Rider of Rohan who can take a warhorn, banner and throwing spears. Rohan Royal Guard who can take a banner, horse and throwing spears. And a Rohan Outrider who can take a horse. And on to the additional rules, there's only a single one for this. A Theodred Guard force must always include Theodred, heir of Rohan, who is always the army's leader. Kind of makes sense when it's Theodred's Guard. So, the special rules. Protect the prince. Those that follow Theodred are sworn to protect him from harm no matter the cost. All models in this force gain the Sworn Protector Theodred special rule. So that's bodyguard as long as he's alive. So this is with essentially enabling to pass all courage tests. Riders of Theodred. The young prince of Rohan is a charismatic and bold leader, one who can inspire his followers to acts of great valour. Captains of Rohan, riders of Rohan, and Rohan Royal Guard treat Theodred as if he were Theoden for the purpose of their Arise Riders of Theoden special rule. So that's the +1 fight value on the charge. So that's Rohan captains to fight 5, Riders of Rohan to fight 4, and Royal Guard to fight 5 when they charge. Fight in ranks. Whilst the Rohirrim commonly use their spears as thrown weapons, the Fords of Isen they're forced to use them in other ways to fend off their foes. Friendly Rohan infantry models armed with throwing spears may use them as standard spears in addition to their normal use. However, if a model uses their spear as a throwing spear in a turn, they cannot use it as a standard spear in the same turn. That enables Rohan to get to that shield wall, and generally if your front line is being charged, you're not going to be throwing your throwing spears because you want to use them as supporting models. It's something Rohan hasn't been able to do before. It's like this in a couple of legions. Off the top of my head, it's also the Defenders of Helm's Deep and the Helm Hammerhands Legendary Legion, Helm's Guard I think it's called. So the designer's notes. This Legendary Legion represents those that fought alongside Theodred at the Fords of Isen. Naturally, this Legendary Legion focuses on Theodred himself, and all the models in this force gain the Sworn Protector Theodred special rule, making them pass all courage tests while the princes are still alive. This also applies to Theodred himself, essentially making him fearless in this force and representing his recklessness in charging straight into the fight. The Rohan forces at the Fords of Isen are a mixture of both cavalry and infantry, so you will notice that in this Legendary Legion, Riders of Rohan will count towards your bow limit, so you want to make sure you have plenty of infantry in there as well. However, the Fight in the Ranks special rule gives your Rohan infantry added flexibility, allowing them to use their throwing spears as normal spears if they wish. Couple this with making them Helmingas, you can have pretty fearsome ranks. So I think this Legion looks pretty cool. It's one I'd like to try out eventually, like all of them. I don't have the models currently painted, but I think it's definitely a fun one and very themed. And as usual, I've written up some army lists to go with that. I think Theodred is a good leader. He does have to charge into combat a lot all the time, but I think this still could be a really fun force to use. So we'll come back in with the army lists, the hierarchy of heroes, apologies. So, back in with Hierarchy of Heroes. This is kind of pretty straightforward. There is only 4 heroes in the list. Obviously there are captains which you can have multiple of. But generally I think it's a pretty self-explanatory one. So, obviously you start with Theodred at 450 points. I've then included Grimbold for the option to get Helmingas, which is your strength 4. And then I've chosen Rohan Captain. This is because he gets the +1 fight on the charge, and he also brings Heroic March to the list, which I think is quite crucial as you're going to have a fair amount of infantry, and you have nothing that moves over that 10 inches. If you get something that can move 12 inches, I'm not necessarily sure Heroic March is needed. So in those 3 heroes you have all the necessary tools to deal with other heroes, essentially. So moving on to 600 points. Again, at this point you can add Elfhelm, and the 600 and 750 point hierarchy of heroes are exactly the same, so I'll run through them. So you have Theodred, Grimbold, Rohan Captain, and then Elfhelm. Elfhelm is a good leader, a good hero, and I think he's excellent for Rohan. Having played against him a few times, his throwing spear is incredibly annoying. The chance to just nail someone's horse, etc., is really, really good. And like I say, at 750 points, it's exactly the same. Theodred, Grimbold, Rohan Captain, Elfhelm. You may want to try and include a second Rohan Captain. I don't necessarily think it's worth it. Quickly moving forward, my 750 point list has 54 models, which I think is really, really, really good. And it's got enough options that I don't think you need a second captain. So with that, we'll move on to the army lists. So, moving on to the army lists. As usual, there's a 450, 600 and 750 point list. So we'll just dive straight in. So at 450 points, in Warband 1 I have Theodred with a horse and a shield. I then have 4 Warrior of Rohan 4 warriors of Rohan with shield, 4 Helmingas with shield and throwing spear, and 2 warriors of Rohan with bow. In Warband 2 I've got Grimbold, 3 warriors of Rohan with shield, 4 Helmingas with shield and throwing spear, 1 warrior of Rohan with a banner and a shield, and 2 warriors of Rohan with bows. And then Warband 3, it's a small warband. I've got Rohan captain with a horse and a shield, 1 rider of Rohan and 2 riders of Rohan with throwing spears. So I'll talk through the kind of a few pros about the list. It's got 26 models, which is kind of about average for 450, I think. Or that's the kind of number I look to build. It's got 5 cavalry models within that. It's got banner. It's got 7 bows and 8 additional throwing spears. There are 2 throwing spears on 2 of the bows within the riders of Rohan. It's got 8 might. It's got heroic strike, heroic march, a strong secondary hero. Grimbold, he does have to go two-handed, but he has got mighty blow special rule and heroic strength if needed, so he can really chop stuff up. Nearly half of the foot troops are strength 4. This is the Helmingas, and with the throwing spears as well, you can definitely whittle down some numbers before combat reaches. There is some fight 4 cavalry when charging, and obviously the Rohan captain going to fight 5, providing they're within the 12 inches of Theodred. And there is lots of, well, there's kind of half throwing spears and half shields on foot to aid with that, to allow you to use that shield wall. There are 4 warriors of Rohan with bow on foot in there. They're predominantly for objectives. I like to have models that can do something while holding objectives. I don't like sending a guy with a shield just to stand there. So 600 points. And we'll move on to, again, Theodred with a horse and a shield. 4 Helmingas with shields. 4 Royal Guards, these are on foot, with a throwing spear. 1 Outrider on foot. Elfhelm on horse. 3 warriors of Rohan with shield, 3 Helmingas with a shield and throwing spear, 1 outrider on foot. Grimbold with 3 warriors of Rohan with shields, 3 Helmingas with shield and throwing spear, 1 Helmingas with a banner and a throwing spear, and 1 outrider on foot again. And Warband 4 is a Rohan captain, horse and shield, with 5 riders of Rohan. So this has 36 models, 7 cavalry models within that, a banner, 8 bows and 12 additional throwing spears, 11 might, heroic strike, heroic march, strong secondary hero, so Elfhelm can go in and do stuff, a Rohan captain can take out a smaller hero. I always think of heroes kind of like Madril, the ones that don't have strike, that are kind of fight 4 or fight 5. That's what I'm looking for my secondary heroes to go and kill. Nearly half the troops are strength 4. There are some fight 4 troops in there, being the 4 Royal Guard on foot. There's some fight 4 cavalry when charging, within 12 inches of Theodred. And the throwing spears are able to support on foot. And the 3 outriders are there for, they're kind of like the warriors of Rohan and with bow in the 450 point list. They're there to hold objectives, and with the Vanguard special rule, I think it's still called Vanguard, their ability to stay on the battlefield if a single hero passes a courage test means those objectives are even more secure than they normally would. Having the strength 4 and the fight 4 in there is really good. Having a line of throwing spears at the back is even better. I think this is a pretty solid force, and 36 models is about what I'd look for at 600 points, personally, between 32 and 36. So moving on to 750 points, like I said earlier, this is a big list. Theodred, horse and shield, 5 Helmingas with shields, 5 Royal Guard with throwing spears, 2 Royal Guards with horses and throwing spears, and then 2 warriors of Rohan with bows. Elfhelm with 5 warriors of Rohan with shield, 4 Helmingas with shield and spear, throwing spear, 3 warriors of Rohan with bow. Grimbold, 5 warriors of Rohan with shield, 4 Helmingas with shield and throwing spear, 1 Helmingus with a banner, 2 Warriors of Rohan with bows, and then warband 4 is your cavalry warband. It's a Rohan captain with horse and shield, 4 Riders of Rohan and 4 Outriders with horses. So as I said before, this has 54 models. We now have 12 cavalry models, a banner, 14 bows, and 16 additional throwing spears. 11 might, heroic strike, heroic march, strong secondary heroes, like we said before, with your Grimbolds and your Elfhelms, and your Rohan captain to an extent. Nearly half the foot troops are strength 4, which is really, really helpful in a Rohan list that does not get the +1 strength cavalry bonus. Some fight 4 foot troops. Your Royal Guard with Theodred. You have some fight 4 and fight 5 cavalry, because you've got 2 Royal Guard on horses there. When charging close to Theodred, you've got your throwing spears for support on foot, and your Outriders to hold objectives again. This is similar to the 600 point list where I've got 7 Warriors of Rohan with bow on foot. These are there to hold kind of back objectives, and if they're still alive, amazing, they'll automatically pass. If not, then you've got Grimbold, Elfhelm, and your captain to try and keep them around. And then you've got your Outriders, who, as long as a hero is alive, will stay on the field to claim those further objectives. I like the look of this legion. I think it's really thematic, taken straight out of the books. Really, really interesting. The Helmingas provide a really unique take on Rohan, and I don't think you'd really see them outside of this list. The heroes are good, they're not amazing. I think the amount of the ranged firepower you can put out is very, very good. I think you can quite easily cause heroes a lot of problems, and them not to have their horses by the time they reach combat. I don't think there's much else that needs to be said. If you like these videos, please comment, like, share and subscribe. There are more going up every week. I might try and get all of them done, or I might stop and do something else. Please go and check out previous ones. Please subscribe and hit the bell for new videos. They're generally about once a week. So if you like this, please comment, like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.